Hey everyone, apparently I'm live now. This has a tendency to crap out for about 10 seconds though when I start a live video, so I'm just gonna wait a little bit here. Getting all set up here. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end up making another set of these eyes to show you guys how I did it. Okay, let's see what I need here. Alright, starting off, I'm going to need, not exactly 100% prepped here, but I'm going to need to clean up a bit first. A little alcohol ought to do the trick. Okay, let's get into this. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is locate a screw, which I know I have an extra one around here somewhere. Here we go. A screw, and this is a foil ball that I hammered together yesterday, just like this one. And I'm going to start with making an armature here. And I just screw this ball onto here, unscrew it so there's a hole, and then I fill that hole with a little Gorilla super glue. I like the Gorilla stuff because it's rubbery, so it really holds even if you move it around a lot. It bends rather than breaks and holds real strong. Okay, and then I'll put that screw back in there. And in the interest of time, I'm going to use a little bit of super glue zip kicker here. And just drop a little bit of that down in that hole. And that'll make the super glue cure rather quickly and almost instantly. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so I've got the ball, and I am actually going to hold it with a small pair of vice grips. And this should lock on here pretty tight. There we go. And I keep a 1, 2, 3 block handy because it makes it easy to put the stuff down and hold it as I need to. So let's see here. I've got a couple of glass cabochon here, a little pair of them that I'll use for the eyes. These are 15 millimeter, and it's what I used on the eyes for these two. And so I'm going to make a third one of these heads. This one looked a little too masculine. It was supposed to be a girl head, but it looks a little masculine. This one, definitely more female, but I think the eyes might be a bit on the large side. So this set of eyes here, about the same as this one as far as the size goes. And I'll try to replicate this more or less using these eyes. And these eyes are baked with cause clay, which bakes flexible around the edge. Here's some cause clay I baked a while ago, and as you can see, it's pretty cool stuff. All right, so first things first, I am going to condition a little bit of this gray cause clay I have here. And this piece is already, and it's mostly kneading it, getting it warm, working out all the bubbles and other crap. Bubbles, and then making it pliable and easy to work with. And I'm going to need more than this to do these eyes. But it's easier if you're doing a little bit of it at a time, rather than trying to knead a big giant piece of it. I wish I could have some music on in the background. I need to get some headphones or something. Then I might be shouting into the camera. If the sound's even on, I have no idea. All right. Usually I'll do this for a lot longer, but I think we're good for now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple balls of this and equal size, as equal size as I can get them. There's a little more from this one to this one. There we go. A couple equal size balls of it, and I'm going to put it on the back of each of these lenses, and that's going to help stick it to the foil ball. All right, I have to adjust the camera here. Okay, so now I'm going to figure out which side of this I want to be the front of my face. And usually I pick the side that's sticking out the most, and then I try to line it up on the channel, the vice grips here, and so that this is the front, and then that way when I put it in, it sticks like this, and I'm looking at the face. All right, so I'm going to stick these eyes on here using the clay as a kind of glue for now. And don't worry about getting clay all over the lenses. You'll be able to rub that off, that thin film of it later. Now what I do is I try to eyeball and line it up so that from the side it's lined up with the screw, parallel. Yeah, parallel to the screw. And then that way I know that both eyes are looking in the same direction. And then from the front, I line them up again. And that looks about right to me. And then double check and adjust as needed. Okay, that's pretty lined up. So next thing I've got to do is, with more of this cause clay, I need to roll out some thin strips. I got a bunch of residue here. I really need to get rid of this, otherwise it ends up getting mixed in the clay. Ugh. All right, cool. So I'm going to take this, and interesting thing about cause clay is it's more rubbery to work with than Sculpey. It's more stretchy, and as such though, it's going to want to hold bubbles a little bit more, which some people call moonies, little bubbles in the clay. And what I've found that when I'm rolling out something thin, I can get rid of a lot of the bubbles by rolling it out on my acrylic base here. Just an old sheet of acrylic I got at a garage sale for 50 cents. There's still a tag there. And I just use it as a base for sculpting. And when I'm pulling it up, you can see that any weak point is still sticking to this acrylic, and it's pulling the bubbles up and out. So if I'm rolling on one side, lifting up, taking that clay, blending it back in, rolling on the other, I'm getting rid of some things that could cause me problems later. Because unlike Sculpey, this is these bubbles don't really go away if you just kind of rub over them a little bit. You need to poke them out with, something fine. And I have a brush here, a little wire brush with one bristle sticking out the side that I purposely bent. And I use this to poke the holes and get rid of them. And I'm not going to need that much, so I'll just keep working on this side. That tore it. That's the other problem when you're doing it. It wants to stick to this, so it will tend to tear if you're not careful. And I just want to make sure I'm rolling this out as evenly as possible so that the eyelids are as even as possible. Okay, that should be good. All right, and then I'm going to take, there you are. Gotta be careful where I put these. I use these a lot when I'm modeling, so I always have a lot of the extra blades, and then when you get to the end of it, you have them as well. And I keep a few of these in my sculpting bin to use for cutting. Since I already have them, since this would just be waste anyway. They're perfect for cutting clay. This was a fresh one though, so it's still very, very sharp, and I've already cut myself a few times on it this week. But it's good for, cutting longer pieces of clay. It worked out really well when I was making the books for cutting along, making the longer pieces for the books. So make sure that you have enough to go over each of the eyes, and I'm just going to cut this into 4 pieces. Perfect. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is take a little bit of this clay, and I want a little clay in between the eyes, and that's going to help me stick the middle of the eyelid in there. So I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of this cause clay in there. And I really like using the cause clay for this more than Sculpey. You guys will love it when it comes out because it is stretchier, it is denser. Like this, I can pull and pull and pull, and it's stretching, and eventually it'll tear now, but once you bake it, it's going to be, hard rubber. But it tends to want to hold its shape more. So if I want to make something flat, like a really flat, thin ear, I just bent that flat, and it's a little floppy. But if I were to, curve it a little bit, it would, hold its shape better. And if I do stuff like this with Sculpey, you're gonna kind of damage the piece and ruin it. With this, it just bends it. It's a little harder to it doesn't want to feather as well or smush like Sculpey does, which is good in some ways, and different from how I'm used to working in others. So I just made what could be no elf here, real quick here. Okay, anyway, I put the clay in between the eyes, and that'll help me stick these pieces on. So I'm going to take this first square here, take the cut side of it, and since I'm doing like more of an anime style eye, I'm going to start there, and then as I get closer to the edge, but not all the way to the edge, I'm going to roll that up. There we go. And then the tricky part, of course, is doing this exactly the same on the other side. And this takes some finesse, and this is what makes a technique that looks pretty simple end up taking 20-30 minutes just to get that other eye looking exactly like the first one. And let's see here. It's pretty close, but it's not. No, actually it's pretty close. All right, I would say I'm going to call that good enough. For now, they're pretty even. All right, now it's time for the tops of the eyes, and just look here as reference so I remember what I'm doing. For these, I am going to cut a little bit here, a little edge to make this edge pointy, and you'll see why in a sec. So that when I put it on here, it doesn't, go over, the corner doesn't go over the other eye. Now I want to make sure I go in a little bit from the edge here. And I'm going to mark first how far in I want to go. That way I know that I'm doing it even on each eye. I've never actually done that before. So something new I just decided to do, because that's one of the things I keep screwing up on. It makes it a little harder is, where did I put that? Now I'll know. Okay, so I'm going to go up, and I'm going to curve it over, and at the end I'm just going to give it a little twist to get that little bit of cat eye going on there. Tap that down. And doing the other side is always a little more difficult. I wish I was ambidextrous. Sculpting one side of something is always so much more difficult than the other because you're used to using one hand to do things, and then suddenly you have to switch to the other hand, and it's not easy. All right. So this top part here is usually where I end up with the most remake. But if I get this right the first time on video, holy crap, I did. Wow. Okay. So these are pretty even, actually. I'm not going to have to do anything to this. I've had to mess with these so many times, redo them with almost every set of eyes I've done so far. So that these came out right the first time is pretty awesome. I guess practice makes perfect. Okay, so pretty close. I mean, you know, close enough for government work, I think they say. All right, let's see here. So now I got the eye shapes in, and I'm going to start blending everything in. So I want to take this little lip here and blend that in, take this little lip, and then I'm just going to put the little tear duct shapes in there as well. And I'm just rolling a wooden tool that I made from just a piece of dowel rod. I bought because I use them a lot, I always buy these bags of assorted shapes of wooden dowels at Michael's or Joann Fabric at the craft store, you know, your local craft store. And I use them to make tools or when I'm making dioramas or for all kinds of things. I'll slide one inside a piece of brass rod here to make different sized temporary rolling pins. But I really need to switch to more of an acrylic rod because the brass is starting to tarnish a little bit, I've found, and it's leaving marks on leaving dirt, like the tarnish on my clay. I don't work clean. I don't know how some of you make those one of a kind dolls and you will use the flesh colored Sculpey and you don't paint, you just tint it a little bit with pigments or paint ahead of time. You don't end up priming and painting the whole thing. I have no idea how you keep your stuff so clean. I've scrubbed every one of my tools and I'm still getting, you know, everything, fuzz, everything all over my work. All right, see, so in the process of that, I've kind of, come on here, focus. There we go. In the process of doing that, I've misaligned something somewhere. So the eyes look a little less aligned now. This side here looks different from that side. So I'm just going to have to, you know, finesse this a little bit and, you know, figure out what the problem is. This looks pointier right here than this, where it's rounder, and I think that's the problem. In fact, that's always the problem I have. It's that left hand versus right hand. All right, let's see if I can just subtly shift that. That's a little better. And around that one a little more. Okay, so this is good enough. Next thing I want to do is do like a final smoothing on this. So I'm going to take one of my little metal bowl things here. A little bit of the liquid Sculpey thinner. And I'm just going to put a drop or two in here. I've got some in there already. A little bit of 91% alcohol. And where's my brush? And just the soft brush. And I was using this last night, so there's some clay residue in here. But the oil, it's like an oil, so it doesn't really dry out. I'll just add more alcohol, and it'll, you know, reuse what's already in there until it all gets used up. And I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to start brushing the eyes, and they'll start to soften. And it'll round the edges a little more. It'll shape them a little better, and it'll get rid of any fingerprints. I'll end up with some the brush marks, but that all gets covered with the Sculpey anyway, so not really a concern. I guess I probably shouldn't have to worry about the fingerprints either in that case, but I like that it rounds the eyes too. And after a while, after the stuff starts to dry, it gets a little sticky, so your brush is going to pull it for a little bit, which is nice. And it's kind of like shaping with your brush. So you can see the difference. It's rounder, smoother than the other side. And I'll do it on the other side, and then I'll fine tune it a little more, because it does mess it up a little bit. It also gets some of that clay residue on the glass, so the eyes are going to start looking frosted, but like I said, that comes off really easily. Blow on it here, dry the alcohol a little faster so it gets to the sticky stage. All right. And make sure that since it's dissolving the clay a little bit, you want to make sure that any of the dissolved stuff isn't building up. You want to make sure you're brushing that away, otherwise you'll end up with these weird little, boogers and stuff. Okay, so those are pretty smooth now. I'm going to take my stylus tool here that I made, and I'm just going to poke in. Gotta get the excess clay off it there. Okay. Poke in a little tear duct shape there. And one on this side. Sorry if this isn't about a camera. I have to see what I'm doing. And sometimes that involves moving it out of sight. Okay, so you can see I put a little cat's eye, a little bit of, I don't know what it's called. I don't do makeup or anything, so a lot of these terms are not going to be the same terms you're using. I do need to learn how to do that, though, for raw resin, because I plan to cast these in a skin tone resin. All right, and so that is pretty much it. I would bake this now at 275 for 15 minutes, let it cool, and it ends up being like this one I've already conveniently baked last night. Hooray. I feel like I'm on a cooking show. So I'm going to take my stylus here, and I'm going to, this wooden stylus is great. It's actually rubbing off any of the excess film from the blending. And then I have an old toothbrush here, and that's just going to get rid of any of the excess stuff. So the eyes are back to being, nice and polished. All right, so next, I need to adjust my light because I like to work, I use light a lot when I'm working. So let me try to adjust this other light here. Okay. So the light is right above my piece. It makes the shadows more defined for me visually, and I can see if stuff is aligned, symmetrical, and how it's looking. So I'm constantly using my light as a tool. Okay, I'm going to put this one in the vice grips here. I need to pick up another pair of these little ones. I really like these, but I always have to keep switching them out. They're cheap. I got them at Harbor Freight. They need to be a little tighter. Different screw. Okay. And I tend to save hardware from different things. These screws are from old shutters we had in the front of our house years ago. That's why they're still blue. We replaced them. It looks a lot nicer now. the blue was a bad choice. Okay, so this one's on here. And if I wanted to, now that it's baked, I could cut down the center of this. I could pull it off with the foil, cut down the center of this, maybe trim more out, make the eyes closer together, further apart, up, down. You know, I have symmetrical eyes, shaped eyes. I would just have to make sure that they were aligned properly if I moved them. But I don't have to do that. I haven't done it yet. It's just something I'm keeping in the back of my mind in case I have to at some point in the future. So I'm going to clean up my cosplay here, wrap it back up. Keeps it fresh and it keeps me from accidentally grabbing it instead of Super Sculpey. And for next, I'm going to use the Super Sculpey medium blend. And I'm going to just grab a chunk of this out of the box here, and this should be enough for, more than enough for the head. And I will Super Sculpey medium blend. You know, when I first bought Super Sculpey medium blend, I'm going to be conditioning this for a bit here, so I'm just going to yammer on while I, need this and get it soft enough to work with. When I first bought it, when it first came out, I think it just first came out 3 to 5 years ago. Can't remember. I don't know what was wrong with it. It was so hard. It felt like the extra firm stuff, and I just couldn't work with it. And I assumed that it was just a really hard, dense clay and stupid to work with. And I kept seeing people do all this amazing stuff with it. And I was like, I suck because I can't do that. Like, what's wrong with me? And then I eventually figured out that the batch I had must not have been good because I bought another thing of it, and it was nicer to work with than my usual method of blending the flesh-colored Super Sculpey with some block of the white and half a block of black of the little blocks. And this is great because now I don't have to blend the Sculpey anymore, which, if you've ever had to blend large blocks of Sculpey, is a pain in the ass. All right, so this feels good. So it's pliable now. Now, the reason I'm using Sculpey for this next step instead of the cosplay, and let's see if I can do a little demonstration here to show you. Do an equal-sized ball of each. So this bluish gray here, that cool gray, is the cosplay. And this warm gray is the Sculpey. Now, what I like about the Sculpey is it smears, and I can, really feather it in. Whereas the cosplay, it also smears, but for some reason, I have a hard time. See, look at how nice the cosplay is smearing and blending and feathering on this acrylic. But for some reason, I can't get it to do that on other cosplay, and I don't know why. Or I can't do it without messing everything else up. And with the Sculpey being softer, it's just easier for me to do it. I love the cosplay a lot. Like, it is a fantastic material, but like anything, you use the material that is best suited for your personal needs. And right now, I need something that, I can smush on here easy without any effort. Like, this is, I don't know, maybe it's just that the Sculpey is softer. It doesn't feather as nice, I guess, apparently. At least not on acrylic. But it does blend into itself very easily, which is nice. And it does blend onto the rest of the cosplay. So first thing I'm doing is I'm packing it around the eyes here because there were some gaps behind it. And try to get this to stay in focus. I don't want there to be any, major bubbles behind there that's going to cause me grief. Like, you can see there's a little bit of a air gap in there. I want to, press that in, work it out as much as I can now so it doesn't cause me grief in the future. Okay, let me try to adjust this here so it's easier for me and you. That's that. Why aren't you holding? Hold on 1 second. I'm getting there. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, it's kind of hard to work with a phone on a stand here right in your face. So right now, now I'm just going to be, patting this out, getting the shape of the head together here. All right. So let's start with, oh man, did I put that on backwards? I like to put this on a certain way so I could just pop it onto the front of that 1, 2, 3 block as a stand to free my hands. Okay, so see, now it's standing there. I need to make a few balls of clay here. And to help with symmetry in the face, I try to make the balls that I use. I try to make balls because I can, kind of see if they're the same size, easier. All right. So this first one, I'm going to start on the top of the head here and start blending it down. And what I'm doing is just, bulking up the shape of the head. Sometimes what I like about the Sculpey, and I could do this with the cosplay too, is I can put it on my palm and just kind of roll it back and forth, and it'll smooth it and round it. It's the Sculpey is a little easier to shape it that way because it's softer. And I'm just gonna blend this all in here. And get a basic head shape down before I start worrying about the major features. So right now there's no forehead, but the shape of the head, I need a lot more on top, I feel like. Maybe I will need more. Okay, let's see here. Another blob. I'll put this blob closer to the front, and then that way I can use it to bulk out the forehead. And I use my thumbs and fingers mostly, you'll see, when I'm shaping. And I'll swap from left hand to right hand for the different sides so that I'm working symmetrically as well. That's why I wish I was ambidextrous. That would rock. That would make this so much easier. And I'm just blending this in and smoothing it with my hands. And it blends right into the cosplay, which is nice. And if I get any clay on the eyes or over the eyes, I can easily remove that and keep the shape of the eye. So I'm manhandling this. I'm really working it, but I'm not messing up the eye shape. And usually I'll do the eyes first or I'll do them last. And I, just started doing the eyes first like this with these two sculpts. And this works so much easier for me. It's made this easy. I don't know. Before I would get, one eye looking good, the other eye would be messed up. I'd try to adjust it. I'd end up messing up the other eye or the nose or the mouth or some other thing. But at least if the eyes are done, they're the thing I tend to mess up the most. My clay ball is shifting. And make sure it's secured to the foil ball. Might be the foil that's shifting. Okay, so I'm getting a top of the head rough shape here. It's definitely the foil ball shifting. This whole thing's getting a little wobbly, which hasn't happened. I have the forehead sticking out from the eyes here a little bit. And I could just take my palm and it kind of pulls the whole thing around and shapes it. And I'll refine this later, but for, rough shaping, it worked pretty well. So a lot of the other videos I've watched on making these heads, when I was trying to learn how to make heads last week, they're edited. And it, it's nice, it's slick with the voiceovers, but it doesn't really give you a feel of just how long it's taking to do something if the video suddenly speeds up. So I think that's why I kind of like doing, I don't know, I just kind of like doing stuff my way. Like, yeah, it's a longer video to watch, but you're seeing the process. I don't know, I'm kind of an introvert, so doing these kind of videos in the first place can be, a little difficult for me. And when I get nervous, I talk a lot, so that's why I'm kind of yammering. All right, so now I'm working on the front of the face. That's kind of a weird alien elephant seal kind of look at the moment, Why'd I do that? Okay, so this is, I'm starting to blend in the bottom here and just pulling this into the eyes, and I might need to add more. It's just start small, add more, or I could take my razor and cut off any excess if I need to. And I try to get a nice blended in, shape here. Blend all these little areas together. And it just pulls, everything pulls together. I was having a hard time last week. So like I said, I was watching those videos and I don't know, they were making me feel like, boy, I sure suck as an artist. I can't sculpt a human head. Like, what the hell's wrong with me? I could sculpt anything else you put in front of me. I can make a whole ramen shop full of details, and I just can't sculpt a human head. And it's a skill, and it's one that is intimidating and requires patience and practice. And one part of it that was making it frustrating is I was trying to do it all in cosplay, and I'm not used to using that material fully for that kind of thing yet. So I was getting frustrated and I was feeling, kind of down about the whole thing. And I decided to do it more comically like this. I decided to use, go back to what I know works well for me. And here we are. And it didn't help that I was seeing all these other people do all these amazing things in cosplay, these sculptures, and it's like, okay, what's wrong with me? And I just need to practice with it more because I love it. It worked so well for making the armor and stuff that I liked, that I made, and those books that I was working on. I'm going to take my stylus here, side of it, and I'm just going to roll it up on here to kind of get the jawline shaped. And so you can see I'm getting a nice little cute alien looking head here. It's going to look very alien because I'll do the mouth first. Once I get this all shaped out, I think I'm going to add a little more on the chin here, and then I'll bulk out the areas on the sides of the head on each side, and the cheeks. So I'll take a little ball of this, and they should have a little bit of a muzzle, snout, front of the face sticks out a little bit, and then the eyes recess, and then the forehead sticks back out to meet it. So while our faces look relatively flat, there's some subtle curves to the side of them. Okay. And just feathering all this in with my thumbs. All right. And so I'm holding the back of it against my belly, and full body modeling here. All right, so getting there. Pull this under the light here. This isn't going to work on camera very well. I'm going to have to do this off to the side. Just trying to make sure everything's symmetrical. And the easiest way to do that, like I said, is underneath the light. Let me get a little LED flashlight here. So if you could see the shadows here, we have the light right above it. You can see that there's a little more shadow on this side, so I just need to adjust. And yeah, see that side's definitely sticking out a little more. So I just need to, you know, the Sculpey pulls around easier for me. But I'm going to use Cosclay for the ears because it's stronger and it's going to bake flexible and it's going to hold its shape raw better than the Sculpey will. Like the Sculpey sucks for that. So, you know, use what works. Don't, you know, if you can do everything in Cosclay, do it. If you're more comfortable with Sculpey, do it. You know, just make some art. Have fun with it. Okay, so I got, you know, rough shape here. I need a little more bulk though on the sides and about the cheeks. So these two balls, probably a little big for the sides. So tear a little off of them. And that should work. Then I'm going to flatten them into a ball between my fingers here, my thumbs. So I have roughly even shapes. And I'm going to stick them, let's see, one side's always a little thicker than the other. I'm going to stick them to the sides of the head here. And that'll bulk out that shape on the side in here. And it looks a bit odd at the moment, but, you know, bear with me a bit. And blend this in. I'm going to keep messing up the top of this head because I don't know what's going on. It's not, something's wiggling, so the whole thing is wiggling now, and I'm going to have to keep touching the top of the head to stabilize it as I'm pushing stuff around. But so I added that bulk to the sides, and now I just have to, you know, smush and pull stuff around and reshape it a little bit, and rolling it around in my hand like this looks odd, but I don't know if anybody else does that. It works for me. And I can fine tune. Check it with my light. All right, so there we go. So it's getting there. I pulled some of it off of the sides here, so you can see the Cosclay sticking through, but that's all right because that's where I'm actually going to be bulking up next. I want to flatten the sides of this a little bit. So I'm just gonna squish in. I use I'll alternate my hands back and forth when I'm doing this kind of work, so I'm getting the same amount of pressure on each side. You know, just alternating thumbs and fingers. Okay, so that's better. The head's flatter now. on the sides, and I think I've got a nice, shape to the head here. A little bit of angles to it. I want this to be a little rounder. So one might be asking, FichtenFoo, why the hell are you making fairies? Like usually you make, steampunk and cyberpunk stuff, or, you know, at least something a little more badass than a fairy. And you'll see. I don't want to give everything away just yet, but I kind of have a plan for these, and I think you guys might dig them. I don't feel like I have my own like noticeable style. Now people say I do, but I don't feel like I do. And it's because I'm so random with what I make. Like, look, all of a sudden I'm making fairies. Oops, slipped with the tool. But it's not. I just love so many different things, and I love making things. It's hard to stick with one subject. So I am a fan of fantasy art. I'm a fan of cyberpunk, steampunk, diesel punk, all the punks really, and punk rock, which is what I would be listening to right now if I didn't think Google would remove all the sound from my video. So I'm kind of developing what might be a new genre for me, something that mixes everything that I love into, one thing. So we'll see how that turns out, but this is some of the prep work for getting started with that. So that's why I've got goblins and spell books, and but there's also going to be, technology and cool graphics, kind of like, magic punk a little bit, where they combine magic and technology. I was doing my research. You always do your research. But my own kind of version of that. Something fun, something different, something that's more me. So I just, I want to combine all my loves into one thing and see where that goes. And the result could be something very cool, or it could be something very lame, but at least I tried. Okay, so you'll find that at the beginning here, I am going to be constantly messing around with the shape of the jaw and everything else here. Get that basic head shape out of the way first, and the rest I found is going to be a lot easier. And but like I said, I'm no expert on making, human heads. But because this is cartoony, it's more up my alley. I don't need to worry so much whether or not it looks completely realistic. It just needs to look cool. Okay, so right now, what those two little blobs are going to be the cheekbones, and maybe in the future I'll add more blobs like this to a cast like this to make some kind of cool helmet, some kind of cyberpunk helmet on a fairy or a goblin or something. We'll see where that takes me. I want to do something different. I want to do something fun. I try not to worry about what everybody else wants me to do, and for the most part, I succeed at that. But I mean, every once in a while, there's, you start to feel the pressure a little bit, and you feel like you gotta cater to what the audience wants to see. But I don't know, that kind of sucks the fun out of it too. And this is supposed to be relaxing and enjoyable, and even though I do it as a business, I still want to enjoy it. So I got some cheekbones going on here. I could even make this into a weird little skull creature at the moment if I wanted to. I don't, but I'll just you know, put a pin in that for later. But yeah, you know, I wanna enjoy what I'm making, and it's why I don't do a lot of commission pieces, because, you know, 19 times out of 20, it's, can you make this very specific Star Wars thing for me? And unless it's something I already want to make for, you know, just not even for myself, just something that looks cool to make, you know, I don't really have the interest. I mean, I like, you know, the money, obviously, but, you know, I want to make something I don't know. When you're making something you want to make, it just ends up turning out so much better than something you feel forced to make. And I know you guys and girls know what I'm talking about. Okay, so she's looking pretty good. I got the cheekbones down, getting the face shape here. Check my, using these as reference now. So I was using some resin heads the first time, some resin female heads. This is the one of the casts I used when I made my assault proxies, which I still have a few of for sale. If anybody's interested, you can see what they look like on FichtenFoo.com. All right. So, and you'll see I'm, you know, taking my stylus here and cleaning out any extra. So I keep poking this one side here, and I haven't done that yet, which is making me wonder why. I haven't done it on the other ones. I wonder if I have these eyes more angled back so that the stylus is just naturally rolling off the eye. And yeah, some of it is, you know, blending and reblending in the same things over and over too, which, you know, it's just how it is. But I, you know, I added the clay for the cheekbones, and that messed up the stuff around the eyes, and this is why doing the eyes first is going to be my new go-to. I'm going to try it soon. I ordered some, I don't have the right size cabochon, the glass lenses, to do a realistic figure. So I ordered some, I think 12 millimeter might work. I felt like the 10 were too small, and the next size up I had was 15. And then I also have 8, 7, and 6 and 5 millimeter cabochon as well in my stash, as well as some 25 and 16 millimeter. And most of these I've gotten, you know, to make eyes. Some of them I have left over from my Ornithopter, Dragonfly, and Moth kits. Okay, so I think, let's see. So you can see that little meh there in the corner of the eye. That's what I'm trying to get rid of. So this is the point where I start needing to use some other tools. And I'll grab them out here. So this is what I'm going to be using. I have some different ball tip styluses. This largest one of this set only has one on the one side, but usually they have a different sized ball on each side. And I've got 4 different of those that I got on Amazon with 7 different sizes. Then I have these ones that have a silicone handle, and I have them. I have 4 of them, and there's different ball sizes. They go up pretty large. And then I've got these 2 silicone tipped styluses here. I've got others over there, but these are probably the only 2 I'm going to be using for now. And I'll just need to figure out which one of these tools is going to help me fix that. So I'm going to use this ball stylus here and just start blending that in. And it's giving me a little bit of a tear duct shape, which is nice. And I will add that later, but for now I want that to be smooth. It's just going to help me out when I work on the nose. Like I said, I work with my fingers a lot, but sometimes my fingers are too big. Okay, so that's you can see I fixed that for the most part. It's a little bit there. Okay, there, fixed. Little excess clay. This side could look a little nicer. I'll just roll this around in here. Okay, there. So that shape is better. I wonder if it's too much stuff in the background here. There we go. That should keep it better in focus. Okay. So now I gotta figure out how I want to do the mouth here, because the mouth is usually the next thing I work on. And I could be fussing with a lot of this stuff all day long. It helps to look at it from different angles too. So sometimes you want to look at it from above, and it just helps you get a different perspective on it to see where you're out of alignment. Because you want to make, I mean, faces in general are not symmetrical, but they're pretty symmetrical, and if something's way off, you'll notice. For the most part, you don't notice the average person's face isn't symmetrical unless you take, a photo, cut it in half, mirror it on the other side. But overdo it in clay and looks bad. Okay, see, something here is bugging me, and I'm just not quite sure what it is yet. I feel like I might not have enough I guess it's probably about the same. I'm just feeling like there's not enough bulk in here, but it's what I need. If I add any more, it's going to end up looking too masculine. And don't forget to, work on the back and underside of the head too while you're at it. The less you have to mess with those when you're doing the front, the better. Okay, so next let's work on the mouth. And for that, I'm going to start with the lower lip and try to figure out how much I need here, because when I was trying to figure out mouths the other day, I found a pretty cool tutorial from a guy called Ace of Clay on YouTube, and it helped me out with doing the lips. His little tutorial. So yeah, look for that, Ace of Clay lips, and thought it worked out pretty well. I mean, it's I had to make my, you always want to make your own modifications to any technique to work with your own workflow, but in your own project. Let's see. So I want to make sure that this lower lip is completely in the center. I want to make sure it's not too wide, because then it'll, start looking thin-lipped, and I want it to look a little pouty, a little serene expression. Like right now it's looking kind of like a piranha. But that's just the first little part there. I'm going to take one of my ball styluses. I'll take this largest one here. I'm going to roll in here and start separating the chin from the lip. And let's see, take another one here, and having the different sizes really helps. And then I'm just going to start, blending this in. Trying to keep this in focus, but it's not easy, and I apologize for that. Better. Okay, good. Kind of. All right, so I'm, just kind of working around in here. And it's alright if it's a little rough at this point. We'll fix that later. I will be messing with this as much as I've messed with everything else. And I'm not going to add any detail to the lip just yet. I'm going to wait until I'm about done because otherwise I'll mess it up. But yeah, so you'll see like it's forming the lip, and then some more on the chin here. Okay. I wonder if I can get this light going this way. There we go. I'll move the camera. Ah, perfect. Okay, excellent. All right, now I can work with the light the way I want it. So you can see how this side of the lip over here is a little too tall, and I'm just going to take that and I'm going to pull it back, push this side up a little bit, and it's just going to take a lot of little tweaks. Pull the clay around, use the ball stylus. Okay. Make sure everything is blending into everything else. All right. I think we're getting there. I think it's still jutting out a little too much. But I can turn this and pull the clay down. Okay, well anyway, the lip being a little pouty at the moment is not necessarily a bad thing yet. I can trim some of it off later. Okay, so bottom lip looks weird for now, but bear with me. All right, put that aside, and now I'm gonna make the top lip. And so this whole area here is kind of like a weird triangle. Not worrying about the nose just yet. I'm just gonna make a triangular kind of piece. The Ace of Clay thing wasn't working for me at this size. His stuff tends to be a little bigger, but just it's a good start, and I learned from it. So, all right, so here is the start for the upper lip. I want to make this one though exaggerated large, because what ends up happening is if you don't exaggerate it, it ends up being thinner, like this one, the upper lip here, whereas I want it to be fuller, like this one that I exaggerated. So I'm going to take and start blending this piece in. And I'm pulling the clay to the sides here first, and you can see how as I'm pulling the clay around, it's actually making the lip smaller. So that exaggeration helps negate that. Also pulling the clay into the eyes, where I would spent all that time fixing it before, because of course I am. There seems to be a little more on the one side than the other, so I'm just going to add a little piece of clay here. I just want to make sure that there's as much clay on the one side as the other, because that way it's easier to blend later, or now. Okay, so then I'm going to pull it up here, and I'm going to let it, retain that crease, that peak in the middle. I don't want that flattened. So right now it looks like one of those weird alien cartoons with the weird language, the odd use of English that Blappy is always sharing. If you're watching this, Blappy, it's the only way I see those cartoons is when you share them. So keep sharing them. All right. So just blend a little around the eyes here. You'll notice I filled in the corners of the eyes. And I'm going to take this stylus, the silicone one here, and try to blend it with that instead. But I got in there pretty, I got over them pretty far. And blend them up and towards the middle to get them back out of the eyes. And this ridge is going to end up being part of the nose and the whole center part of the face into the forehead, how the nose blends. So you'll see, you know, that shape there is actually, you know, this here, where that came from. So I'm pulling down the forehead here. I feel like the forehead could be out a little more. Yeah. So I'm gonna take my hand, and this is the part I like about using the Sculpey. I'm just lightly kind of rubbing it, and it's pushing it all forward. It's really soft. So some people don't like soft clay, and I like whatever clay works for whatever I need done at the moment. If Bondo was the best clay for the job, I'd be using it. If Abe's epoxy sculpt was the best, I'd be using it for aspects of this. But I don't want to wait 6 hours for, you know, I could have used it around the eyes instead of the cause clay, but, you know, waiting 6 hours for it to cure kind of sucks. And I don't have a heat box at the moment that'll work with it, because I heard that you can speed it up that way. So, but I just haven't tested it for myself yet. Okay, so I'm getting there. I have kind of a weird alien frog-lipped thing going on at the moment. I want the expression to be kind of a serene, smiling, not super happy and cheeky. Just, you know, serene. Just a bland, happy expression. So I'm going to put these little dimples in here on either side of the bottom lip. And that's going to push up the sides of this mouth here a little bit. And there was something I did yesterday. Was it pulling it up or pushing it down? I don't know. I did something yesterday by accident, and it just, you know, worked perfectly. No, I don't remember what it was. I should have wrote it down. Okay, well, it's getting there. It's, you know, you need some. I think I pushed it down a little on the sides, and that caused it to, yeah, caused it to look a little more smiley. Okay, where is that tool? Ah, here we go. This is a dental tool I use a lot. I have it heat shrink tube on this side that I use more often, and the heat shrink tube is over some hockey tape, some sports tape, because the sports tape is sticky and I don't like it being sticky, so the heat shrink tube covers that, but it leaves it still a little soft and squishy. But I really like this side here because it's just sharp enough. It's rounded. I've polished it and sanded it a few times over the years. And the other side is kind of a rounded pick. And my phone's getting warm, apparently. Got a warning. All right. I'm going to get in here and I'm going to pull this up a little bit. Switch to the other hand on the other side. And this is the part where sometimes I mess stuff up because I'll accidentally poke something a little too hard. I just need to pull this into some other light here closer to my face. starting to get a little bit, oh, I can't remember if it's nearsighted or farsighted, but if things are too close to my face, they're harder to focus on. But sometimes I still need things closer to my face. Okay, so just refining the area around the lower lip here a little bit so I can see it better. And let me adjust my lighting so I can do it in the light and on camera. There we go. Better. All right. Oh, someone's messaging me. They must not know I'm doing a live video. Shh. Okay, I think I got the face a little more, happy, smiley looking. I'll feel like the chin is now a little weak. So I'm gonna take a little ball of clay here and just a little bit is all I'll need. Flatten it, stick it on the front of the chin, and blend that in. I think what I need to find is some silicone tools like these that are shaped like my actual fingers. About the same density. Maybe I should sculpt some and cast them. And then that way I could sculpt with my fingers in a miniature scale too. And as I'm saying this, somebody might be Googling it and seeing if something already exists, because that's what I would be doing, now that I think about it. I've got some smaller silicone tip tools, but not all tools are created equal. And let me show you. These ones are cheaper, and what I don't like about them is there is... Okay, not on that one, but some of them have a seam line, like the mold line. Like, see the mold flash line on the handle? Some of these have that on here. And these ones are rougher, and they're just kind of garbage. So they're in my tool thing, but I don't really use them. And as I say that, somebody out there is like, that's my favorite tool. And that's cool. Whatever works for you. Everybody has different likes and needs, and as we get older, we hopefully start to realize that and mature and let people enjoy things because they enjoy them, and it doesn't affect us. Okay, so just shaping the bottom of the chin here because it's bothering me. Yeah. So, going on there, this is looking a little odd up here. I might need to add a little more clay, but these will have hair on them eventually, so it's not a huge deal. Okay. One important thing when sculpting these, for me, at least, is I do not want them to look like a Gelfling. That's like my big worry. I just do not like the Gelflings on the Dark Crystal. All right, here we go. So, no nose yet, but we're getting there. Lips are coming along. And I need, let's see here, this ball stylus. And do that little, I think it's called a Cupid's bow in the middle here. And I'm going to start at the lip, and I'm just going to start pulling this up. Making sure I'm doing it in the center. See, that's getting the shape of the lip. And then that excess clay. You have to be real careful. It's, you know, real gentle touch here because Sculpey is soft and you don't want to move the lips that you've already done. All right, so I've got clay in the, you know, the corners here still that I'm, yeah, something's different. I've never had this much clay issue, so I think in the corner of the eye and then with poking it on the edges here. So I think these eyes are at a different angle from the other ones I did. So we'll see if that's good or bad. If it's good, I'll figure it out and do it next time. And if not, still a video with some of the basics. Okay. This head, though, is easier than the first one I did. And the second one. Because the more you do something... Shoot, I just completely put a hole in there. The more you do something, the better you get at it. Although, you know, as I'm saying, oh, this is so much easier, I'm messing it up. But, you know, the more you do something, you know, the easier it becomes. You doing something a second time is easier. Having to remake something, which we've, you know, all had to do because we've messed something up or weren't entirely happy with it. Spider on my leg. That's what happens when you work in a basement. This is the season, at least for me, where the small tiny spiders are constantly falling from the ceiling and just hanging in front of your face. I don't know what they're called, but they're just everywhere. So all winter long I will be cleaning small webs off of all of my stuff. But they keep out the other pests, so who am I to complain? They all have their jobs to do. Except those goddamn centipedes. Those things can... Man, I know they have their niche and are probably beneficial, but those things creep me out. Alright, so we're looking good here. The lip right now is looking a little, you know, hard-edged. I'll soften that in the final steps. It'll be a little softer. The final step is going to be, you know, the brushing with the alcohol and liquid Sculpey. So I think I got the cheekbones where I want them. I think just kind of reshaping here around the face a little more. I'm going to take my thumbs now and kind of press in a little bit behind the cheekbones to push them forward and just define them from that side a little more. And blend them, and then the part of the skull. So, yeah, that's defining the cheekbones a little more. Now, I wrote polish yesterday on my post, and people thought I meant I sculpted the eyeballs, this glass part, out of clay and then polished them smooth. And what I meant by polish is some of this texture and stuff from me using my hands to do this. I'm buffing out and polishing out with very fine steel wool that I have a magnet attached to pick up all the edges, as well as you know, some wet sanding it And that's smoothing out any of the little scratches and other artifacts from sculpting. I need is a good rattle can acrylic primer. I need to figure out if someone makes one. That'd be so much easier than having to airbrush it. Because the can primer I usually use is not great to use on polymer clay. It ends up making the polymer clay sticky, especially the cos clay. I did a test on that about a month ago, and it's still tacky. And so not all, at least that brand of Duplicolor auto primer that I usually use on plastic and resin. I haven't tested out any others yet, but on the cos clay. But if you spray something that you've made from clay and you find that it feels tacky, that's why. It's reacting with the stuff in the clay, and it'll end up being that way forever. My Java master, my Java prototype Java Macquarie thing is kind of ruined. I used the red primer on it, and it really did a number on it. Okay, nose time. So, let's see here. I hate doing the nose. Just wondering if I should procrastinate and if there's anything I need to do on the brow yet. Feel like no, it's out enough. Okay, so guess it's time for the nose. Nose is I don't know, nose is tricky. First nose I did for the first guy, I did a long piece blended into the top, and that was, I don't know, that didn't work as, it was harder to make the nose. This one, I made more of a ball first, and started blending the ball in. So I'm making this little, kind of almost like a teardrop shape ball. And I want this to have a cute little, elven pixie nose here. So I'm going to take this little wedge shaped ball. I'm going to put it right there in the nose. Move these out of the way. Okay. And then I will start blending this in. And this should be all I really need for the nose. I want a little, cute little upturned pixie nose. Not too pointy, or as a friend of mine said, for the first one it looked too Roman. So, more elfin. So these are going to be 1/1 scale when I'm done with them. So that's why I'm not necessarily concerned with it looking exactly human. I want it to look more like a creature, because that's what it's going to be. Okay, so blend it in the top of the nose. And right now it's got that button nose look still, which is cute, but I'd like more of an Irish nose, I think. Okay. Push down a little on those two sides to start getting the sides of the nose, and blend in the bottom of the nose. Different ball stylus here. blending this part in a little tricky. Okay, so got the bottom more or less tacked in there, the top part of the nose. I might add a little more bulk in here. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out. I probably don't need to. Right now I gotta blend in on the sides of here. I'm just trying to make it all one piece, and I can always add more clay if I need to. So I'm just delicately tapping and pulling the clay here. Gotta really finesse it, otherwise it's really easy to ruin the work you've already done. Alright, so that's kind of blended in now on the sides. But now there's little bumps and stuff all over it that I need to deal with. So I'm just going to kind of roll my stylus here. Kind of shape it a little more. Kind of crooked. All right, I think that's coming along. And I'm actually just curious, are the eyes? Oh yeah, the eyes are smaller than this one, so it definitely has a, get them both the same distance away. So it has a different look. I kind of like it better. The eyes have a little more of a cat look to them. They're a little wider apart. This might be the good one. This might be the final that I end up casting. I'm going to cast that male version as well. He looks like a Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z. I just need to add some antenna, find a little body, make him a costume. It'll be fun. Oh, speaking of which, finale of Dragon Ball Super was on last night. Lainey, my youngest, and I have been watching that since the beginning, and she really likes it. Although we've been, mostly complaining about, there's 10 minutes left in the Tournament of Power, and then the next episode, 15 minutes remain in the Tournament of Power. It's like, wait a second. What? Alright, so now I'm just refining the nose shape so that I can get the sides of the nostrils shaped in here, which is a little tricky. Let me look at... See, this is where having real human reference comes in handy. So it looks like the point should go up a little bit. The side, like the indent, should go up and around a little bit here. So, get that out of the way. I just need to make sure the two sides are symmetrical first, and they definitely are not. Because it's easier to sculpt one side than the other. Nope, too big. The other one rolled away. I know what you're all thinking. What beautifully mangled nails you have. Can't be helped. Nature of what we do. All right. It doesn't help that I have naturally thin nails to begin with. I'm constantly tearing them. like I don't have enough calcium. I love cheese too much to be calcium deficient. All right. So as far as tools go, um, I have pointy metal tools too, but the wood, the fibers in the wood, the grain of the wood, tends to grab onto the clay. So a wooden tool is easier for pulling stuff around, where the metal tools are better for cutting and smoothing. So that's why I'm using both. So let's see, I've actually made one. I need to make a smaller one. I haven't done it yet. I made a ball stylus. Let me find it here. About a 1/4 inch out of some dowel with my Dremel. But I want to make some tinier ones from wood too, so that I think they'll be useful. I just need to put one of these in my drill, sharpen it, put it in my drill, sharpen it with a pencil sharpener. This one I rounded this one a little more with sandpaper. But yeah, make some wood ball styluses, because I think those will be really handy. But yeah, the nose, you really tend to notice if the nose is off, being the center point of the face. So that's why I'm taking a lot of time here, getting the shape just right and symmetrical on both sides. Okay, I think I'm good there. I want to put a little bit of, like it's too bulky here and here. So I'm going to take this ball stylus and I'm going to push up on both sides. And then start forming the outside shape of the nostril with it. And because I plan this to be 1/1 scale, I'm thinking in terms of small animals like rabbits, and I used to have pet rats, and how their noses are, and the amount of detail a small animal is going to have versus a human. And thinking about it from like a natural and anatomical standpoint, I feel like their nostrils, their noses are going to be a little bigger, their eyes are going to be bigger, mouths, their heads are going to be a little larger in proportion to their body. Like a squirrel or a mouse or a bird. A human-sized head on like a 6 scale figure body, which is what I plan to use, would look out of, I don't know, I just feel like from a natural standpoint, it would look weird. It would just look like, a 6 scale version of like a full-size fairy creature. Whereas what I'm trying to make is an actual size elves and goblins and that stuff. So I'm using the alcohol with a little bit of the Sculpting oil in it. And I just noticed that nose is off center. Oh, the mouth is too. Oh, are you kidding me? Let's see if I can fix that without having to redo it all. See if I can pull that over. Okay, I feel like I've pulled the mouth over. bit. Is it off center? Can't tell. A little bit. Maybe half a millimeter, but it's enough to bug me. Okay. Let's trying to think of the best way I can push this over, doing the least amount of damage to what I've already done. And don't know if that's even possible. So I'm just gonna push it over and make the adjustments. Alright, I think it's better. Didn't do too much damage, I'll just have to adjust a little bit. And sometimes it's better to roll your tools instead of trying to, you know, rub them over the clay. It depends on what you're trying to do. Like I'm trying to flatten and smooth here as opposed to move clay distances. So rolling them, you can control the pressure a little better, use more or less, without having to worry about tearing anything you've already done. Okay, that's better. That's more symmetrical now. I have to adjust the mouth a little bit, but that was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'm just making some adjustments to this lower lip area now that I've mangled it up. I'm trying to keep it as, still keep it as symmetrical as possible. Sometimes a brush is really nice to work with here. It's a little tiny piece of fuzz underneath the lip here. It's making it look like a shadow. It might be too blended into the clay. Oh well. See, I just can't work clean. Alright, yeah, the brush, what's nice about the brush, the, quote unquote wet brush, is that it's gonna, help smooth and blend and make transitions look nicer. That's coming along. I feel like I still need to push more around this bottom lip here. It's a little bumpy still. Yeah, I don't know if you could see it. It looks like there's a little dark spot right in here. And it's just a little piece of fuzz under the lip. All right. So let me see how this, a little more alcohol in here. And I'm going to blend this nose, get the nose nice and smooth before I move on to doing any more detail on it, just so I can see the shape. Because all the little adjustments and stuff leave little dings and nicks and other things. All right, so I think the nose is actually looking pretty good. It's a little off in here. I can't adjust that without mangling it too much. The nose needs, just this side of the nose and that little crack there needs just the tiniest little bit of clay. And stick that in there. You could use plain alcohol to blend the Sculpey, but it dries it out a little bit. It makes the outside a little stiffer, more crumblier. But mixing the Sculpey oil with it keeps that from happening. So you can get right back to working on it like it's fresh Sculpey. Alright, let's blend in that little chunk and blend away the tool marks. Okay, I think that's better for the nose. Maybe a little down on this side. And I can push that up. Even it up a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Yeah, symmetry is the hardest part. Just keeping things equal on both sides. So now the nose is pointy, a little upturned, elfin. Okay. So next, I think I'm going to put in a little bit of recess for the eyelid shapes. And that'll blend it. We're almost done. Except for the ears. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a ball stylus and I'm kind of drawing in the contour of the eyes here. So anyway, this is my workflow though. I mean, I know everybody does things different ways because the videos I was watching on YouTube trying to figure out what I was doing wrong sculpting faces, every one of them was different. And you know, I figured just figure out what worked best for me and go from there. Alright, so I got these little contours in here now. And just a little bit bottom here. Just very faint. Okay. So now that's done. Something about the nose still seems a little off. No, it doesn't. Okay. Nope, okay, should be fine. I think it'll all work out once I do the nostrils, which I will do last thing before I do the ears. So I'm going to put a little more alcohol in my Sculpting oil here. And last step here is going to be blending all this. So I'm going to take this brush, which is going to soften this transition here. A little bit of finger, but mostly the brush. And that's what basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to brush this whole piece. And making sure I'm not brushing in any deep lines. If you press too hard, that could happen. And make sure the shape of the skull is still how I want it to be. See, that's raised up a little bit for some reason. I need that blended in. The alcohol's dried it out a little bit, that's why. Okay, there we go. So yeah, the little lip is gone now. And all these little tiny faint brush lines, I will go back and forth later with a different brush. It'll make it look like skin, but most of that will even be polished, buffed out with the very fine steel wool that you can get at the hardware store. I got mine at Hope Depot maybe, or Lowe's, or one of those. And I bought one bag of it about a dozen years ago. And I just, tear off little pieces and it lasts for a while. It's not like I do a lot of buffing. So it's just a cheap tool to throw in your toolbox and use as needed. But the alcohol stiffening this, though, is not necessarily a bad thing at this point. Cupid's bow, I've jacked that off a little cleft here. Just, while I was working on the nose. So we'll reshape that. Some of the little things I'm doing here, just they're not showing up on camera, but to the naked eye I can see some of the little flaws that I'm trying to weigh them out. Okay, so let's see here. Look at it from different angles. It looks good. It's okay, so right here there's a little more skull on this side. So I'll just need to adjust that a little bit so it's symmetrical. Whole skull, actually. I just need to pull that over a little bit and get in there. better. Okay, good. Good, good, good. I'll just work that back a little more. Check it again. Some of that's the shadow. I don't have the light right above it. That's my problem. It's fine. Okay, good. Good, good, good. So everything is just about blended and smooth here. The brush, when you're brushing this, if there's any flaws, you'll start to see them once you start brushing them, because this makes it shinier. So like right in here is not so smooth from the process. But as I continue to brush it, it's almost like sanding. So that has smoothed that out. And the same thing on the other side. All right. Well, there seems to be a little bit of a flaw in there that I just need to brush out. And if brushing out isn't working, then I just take my finger and try to carefully get in there and smooth it. There we go, that's better. I think it might be an artifact from when I was rolling it before. Okay. That is bugging me. I feel like it's, I think I need to do more on this side, actually. I think I might have blended it out when I was fixing the head a couple of minutes ago. Alright, that's definitely more symmetrical now. Okay, good. And the clay is just naturally pulling into a tear duct area with the brushing on the sides here. So I'll let it. Okay, good. All right, so the face is, I think, done. I think something about the lip here needs adjusted, but other than that, we are just about ready to move on to the ears. All right, good. Nostrils. So I'm going to take my ball stylus. It's going to find the right size one, the nostril size. That should work. And I'm going to start near the back here. And just kind of lightly push and pull up. And then that way it transitions. I don't want to go too deep. It doesn't need to be real deep. It just needs to give the impression. And then take my brush, smooth that, pulling forward again, which is also tipping the nose up, which, you know, for this is desirable. And there we go, got some nostrils in there. Okay, on to the ears. So the first thing I want to do is decide where I want to place the ears on this head. And, you know, do I want high ears, low ears? Like the ears on this one are a little higher, where the ears on this one are a little lower. And gives it a bit of a different look. And I kind of like the lower ones better. So I'm going to go for that. So I just need to first create on the skull here, just with my thumbs, kind of like a jawline, so I know where these ears would naturally be on a humanoid. And it's just the shape of the head is needed for the back of the skull. Okay. And there we go. Okay. Round that side. Round that side. Okay. So I got a little bit of a jawline going in there. Everything's looking pretty good. All right, take one of my tools here, doesn't matter which one, and let's look at this. Let's see exactly. So right about the line where the nose is on this one, but this one has a lower nose. So I think I'm going to start the ear holes maybe right about here. And I just got to try to match that up on the other side as best I can. I think that's good. Maybe this one needs to come back a little more. Yeah. Better. All right. So now that I have those little holes, I'm going to take a toothpick and stick it in each side lightly. And let's see. So I could tell that they're level. The holes are level. This hole needs to go up a little more. And front to back, this one needs to go back ever so slightly. Okay. So once that's in, I'll just push them in a little deeper, and then I know exactly where I need to go. And then I'm going to take my my ball styluses here and put a hole on each side, round it a little bit. If I need to make it deeper or bigger, I will do that. Okay, there we go. There, 2 ear holes. Get a drink and then make the ears. Okay, so I can put away the super Sculpey now. And at this point on, I'm going to be using the cause clay again for the ears. And let's see, there's this guy's reference. So I'm going to need enough clay to make 2 ears, and that should be plenty. But I will get a little more anyway. Because I can always trim it away. It's harder to add more. And now I just gotta condition this clay, and it takes a little longer to condition this stuff because it's rubberier and harder. But that's why it's better for making ears. And plus, you know, when I do go to cast these and pull them out of the molds, these aren't going to break. I could drop it on the floor and they won't break. I've broken the resin Jabba head 3 times already that I've been working on. I've dropped him on the floor and busted his ears off because I keep forgetting he's not attached to the top of the body. So I'll pick the body up and turn it upside down for whatever reason. And boop, there he goes again. Bouncing along the floor, little bits of ear going everywhere. So I've had to resculpt them a couple times before I started painting. Okay, so this is warm and pliable now, ready to work with. Okay, so what I need to do first is get 2 equal sized portions. And again, I do that by making a couple balls. So this one's a little larger. Pull some clay off of it. And now they're more or less the same size. Okay, cause clay all the way. I'm going to roll these balls and make them nice and smooth. Okay, then the ball, you know, rolling them in my hands, I kind of naturally footballed like that. American footballed, I guess. Not that I watch it, I'm not a fan. Okay, of sports, I'd rather be doing this. Okay, so I've got 2 pointy, you know, football-shaped pieces here, and these are going to be the ears. And I want these ears to be large, but maybe not this large. So I'm going to take my blade here, and I'm going to cut the same little bit off the one side of each. A little more off of this one. Okay, great. I'm going to take the back of this side, and I'm going to kind of roll it into that point. And that point is going to end up going eventually into this hole. So that's the key for that hole. And I'll do the same thing to this piece. And I'll probably have to remake these holes and possibly the ears, but you know, we'll see how it goes. The trick is making the ears symmetrical. I mean, they don't need to be perfectly symmetrical, but you know, the detail, if you can get that to be symmetrical as possible, it's nice. All right, I'm going to stretch these a little more because I want them to be longer. So I'm just going to pull this outward. And that works. Okay, so this is the nub that goes into the head, which means this is the ear shape. So I'm going to take this ball stylus again, and I'm going to roll it lightly on the end and a little heavier here. And I'm going to pull this wider just a little bit. Like that. And I'll do that on this one too. And the reason I'm doing this is I want the edges of the ears to be thinner, but I want the ears to look thinner than they actually are. So I'm pulling out these edges here so that I can fold them over to make, you know, the parts of the earlobes and such. And then while you're doing this, you can start to shape the ear a little more. I'm going to pull that out into more of an elf shape. And same with this one, trying to keep it as symmetrical as I can. And see, it's not, so, but I see what the problem is. It needs to be a little pointier, pull it out more. Now the other side needs to be pointier, and this needs to be a little more rounded. Okay, so we're getting there. It's about good enough. Let's mess with it a little more. Okay, so now we just need to do detail inside the ear. So you don't have to do perfect human ear interpretation here, but you know, you want to get close. What I'm doing at the bottom here is I'm pulling down an earlobe. And let's see, here we go. Do it on this side too. And as I'm doing that, it's pressing up a little bit in here, which is, you know, a nice little bit of added detail. Every animal has different kinds of ears, and if you look at animals' ears, they're kind of strange compared to ours. Like ours are smooth, theirs can have a lot more random flaps. Like my cats have all kinds of stuff. Even my rabbits. Rabbit ears are deceptively simple looking. Although they're very simple to sculpt. So, let's see here. Okay, so I've got these two pieces now. They're kind of symmetrical going on here. And now I need to put in a little bit of detail on the edges, and then the detail that goes on more towards the head, I'll add that once I attach it to the head. In fact, that'll help me stick it to the head. So I'm going to take my ball stylus here, and I'm just going to put a little indent right here in the end of the ear here. And I need to close off the end here. It's going to look like it has a bubble in the end if I don't. And I'm going to do the exact same thing to this side. And then I take that and roll just up slightly. And do that same thing on this side. So now I have these shapes for the ears. And that's one little layer of detail. And that indent makes it look like the ears are thinner all around, even though they're not. Okay, now I'm going to take the larger size of the ball stylus, and I'm going to do that for the middle part of the ear, both pieces. It's going to create more of that random foldy kind of look ears have going on, and you know, you can blend and do whatever you need to with that. Okay, so now that those are done, I can put them into the thing here, into the holes. And I'm going to make the holes slightly larger at just the top so that they fit in better. Okay, so I'm going to press this one in, and I'm not going to really adjust it much. I'm going to press, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side while trying to align it. This is why I didn't do the front part of the detail, because I'm, you know, pressing in. And you want to make sure that you're lining the ears up, pointing them in, you know, as far up or down as you want them. That's how I want these ears. I want them low and sticking out a little bit, kind of like that. The earlobes are out a little further than I'd like, so, but that's easy. I just pull them in closer to the head a little bit. And this is just, you know, at this point, it's just personal taste adjustments, really. Like, you know, the look you're going for. If you're making more of a bat creature, you'd maybe want to make the ears bigger along the sides, doing some of the same stuff. And the back of the ears. So you notice the ears, even your ear has a little more bulk in it. It's all in the folds, but it looks like it has more bulk. And that's what I'm going for here because that's going to keep it attached and a little less breakable. And so now I'm going to take my little pointy wood stylus here and I am going to blend the ears, the cosplay ears, into the Sculpey. And that might involve rolling a little bit of clay into the ear. Start with the back first. And I'll take the brush and the alcohol liquid Sculpey mix and I'll repair all this texture I'm adding later. But blend it in and it'll stay in there. It's just blending the two clays together, and I'm so glad that that works because that gives me a lot more options, and I love options. I love being able to mix and match different products and stuff to get exactly what I need for my pieces. So kudos to the monster clay makers for making cosplay do that. They've been a bit surprised with some of the stuff I've been doing with the clay, such as the dyeing it. They hadn't thought about dyeing it, so that it can actually be dyed is kind of a cool feature. Let's see. Okay, so now I want to make, more of the random ear details in here. So I'm going to first kind of readjust the shape here again. Make it a little pointier, a little, more tilted up. Still not sure. I'm not a fan of these earlobes. I think they need to be blended upwards. I'm just not liking them. So I'm going to take and blend them in. Blend them up this way a little more. And then we'll see where that goes. I can always add earlobes later if I want them. Okay, so now I'm blending the front part of it above the earlobes into the back of the cheeks here. Okay, so ears are in place. Just this earlobe a little more. I just want to blend it up. I have attached earlobes myself, so detached earlobes seem odd to me because that's not what I'm used to looking at in the mirror. It would be creepy if I was looking at other people's earlobes all the time. Okay. Alright, that's better. So they're attached. And now for the detail. First thing I want to do is take, I think I'm going to use this ball stylus, or maybe the larger, this larger one here. And I'm going to start playing with some of this detail in here a little more. Remake some of the stuff that got lost in the transition when I was connecting it to the ear first. Here we go. And, just some of the random squigglies you get. Try to keep the detail as close to as you can on both sides. It's all right. It's a little. It's all right. It's a little off. I'm not. You know, it's ears. Okay, so did the upper part. Now I got to do the ear canal. I don't want to go too deep with the ear canal. I just want to give the impression that it's deeper. Um, so first I want to use. I want that little flap that's in front of your ear canal though. So I'm just going to kind of take this little one and slowly kind of go around, and that's leaving that little piece right there. That's kind of like the flap. And I don't want it to look like a perfectly round hole either. So, you know, blend it in. All right, that looks good. How do I do that? All right, so I've got to repeat that on this side. Hopefully. Because that's always the trick. Okay, yeah, it's getting there. And then blend. Yeah, and any little random bumps and stuff you get on this just makes it look more like, you know, natural ear folds, which is cool. And I think there's enough of an earlobe there now that I can add an earring if I want to, you know, onto a final cast, not now. If I wanted to put any jewelry or anything on it. So now the trick is going to be getting rid of the fingerprints. I'm going to use these ball styluses to kind of smooth out as much of the fingerprints as I can on the front half. Since the back half is smoother, it'll be easier to get rid of them there. All right, let's see, something's missing. What am I missing here? What did I forget? Ah, yeah, I want this connected to the head better. So that has more of a smooth transition. Now, where does that take place on my actual ear? I'm feeling right above there. Okay, so right above this little hole here, I'm going to pull this up and blend it into the side of the head a little more. It's for a more natural transition. Maybe this one. And that way it won't look like a separate tacked on ear later on once it's all the same color. All right. Okay. So now I'm just going to blend this with some more of that alcohol, and I think I might need to put another drop of liquid Sculpting in here. Oop, there we go. Stop dripping. Okay. Too much liquid Sculpting. I only wanted a drop, and several came out. Okay, excellent. Now I'm gonna go back with the brush and smooth and blend all of my tool marks away as much as I can, as well as the fingerprints on the back of the ears. And if I feel like I need to detail the back of the ears at all, which, you know, from everything I did on the front, they look fine to me. But this is why it's easier on the back. The back's a large, smooth surface. You can just take your finger and brush away the, you know, rub away the fingerprints. drag them, you know. And you know, it takes a little while to soften the clay enough that it starts pulling the fingerprints out. And then I can wet sand this smooth later to get rid of any of the brush marks and such. So let's see, this side over here is done. Now onto this side. And I'll start by wetting it. Let that soak in on the back, and then I'll rub them away while I texture this side. Not texture, smooth this side. Alright, now I'll use my finger and blend away the fingerprints from making the ear, and then brush away any of the residual. I feel like I need to adjust the front of the ears a little more too. Just I don't know, this one doesn't seem to be blended in as nice as this one. I think I might need a little more. I think I'll just use a little Sculpey to accomplish that. A little snake of Sculpey will do the trick. And the false stylus to blend it. And then that'll make a smoother transition from the side of the head to the front, the bottom of the ear. Do that on the other side. Then clean up any other little things, like there's a little fingernail mark on the underside of the chin here. Okay, so I need to do the top of the head now because I haven't really touched that with any texture. Just make sure I'm getting rid of all the fingerprints, using the light to, you know, see. Okay, and all right, so that's it. I just made a head. About 2.5 hours. Come on, there we go. So, and it definitely has a different look from the other two. This one looks a little more human. This one looks more elfin, creepy, I think. Um, yeah, see, these two look, I don't know. I don't think this one looks, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Could look feminine. Maybe the chin's too pointy. I think I'm going to adjust that chin, soften the chin a little bit. Sometimes it helps to compare. Let's see here. You can always change it until you bake it. And then you can still change it if it just involves a Dremel. Ah, yeah, that's better. Not as pointy. Okay, so a weird, cutish little elf head, fairy head. They'll look, it'll work for my project. Looks like there might be something going on right here. And okay, yeah, it's fixed, whatever it was. All right, last step is finding my wide soft brush. Oh, here we go. Okay, so cheap soft brush here, and I'm just going to try to move some of this stuff out of the way. I'm going to brush just all over it with a soft brush, and it's going to add what looks like a little bit of a crackled skin texture. Very, very, very fine, but it's blending away a lot of the larger brush marks from before, and this fine texture will mostly go away when I polish it, and then more so after I prime it using an acrylic primer in my airbrush. All right, everybody, that's it. I'm gonna probably do a few more little adjustments, but for all intents and purposes, that's it. Feel like there's just a little bit more here in the corner of the lip. You can see there's a little bump there. I want to get rid of that. Maybe touch up on top of the eye corners here, and nothing major though. Just little odds and ends that probably aren't worth sitting around for. So thanks a lot for watching, and I hope somebody gets something out of this video, and happy to help. All right, guys, check out FichtenFoo.com for my finished creations, and check out industriamechanica.com where I design and collaborate with others to design and produce model kits. And if you're in the mood to buy any of my stuff, there's a bunch of it on my Etsy shop. So just basically FichtenFoo for everything. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. Bye.